Hey there, we're working in Module 14, and in this particular module, we're looking at the outlining and the subtotaling features that Excel has. We've already gone through Section 1 where I showed you how to create an outline. Now we're in Section 2 where we're going to talk about the subtotal feature. If you have a list of information, there might be times when you want to divide that list up, maybe by a particular repeated value that's in a column. And maybe you want to put in some subtotals for each of those once those values change. We can actually do that in Excel, so let me flip over and show you how the subtotaling feature works. This is the same file that we used over in Module 13 when we were talking about sorting and filtering our data, but I'd like to again tell you what we're looking at here. This is that company, Books & Beyond, we've been working with, and this is their payroll for a particular pay period ending. And they've got different columns of information here. You can see that column A says number, B and C are the first and last name, and just looking all the way across, we've got division, department, and all the way over to gross pay, which is the last column. Let's say I'd like to know per division what the total of the gross pay is, and I want to know this for each division. The first thing you want to make sure that you do is sort by division. I'm going to click anywhere in column E as long as I'm below my header row, which is row 4. And I'm going to the Data tab, and I'm going to do a simple A to Z sort. And that way I've got all of the division together. You'll notice there is a point where Australia ends and Canada begins, and that's where we're going to have Excel put in a blank row and add up the gross pay for us. If you didn't know how to do subtotals, this is probably what you would end up doing. You would probably go ahead and select row 27 and then right click and insert a blank row. Then you'd probably come over here and write a formula that tells Excel to add up all the gross pay here for the Australian division. That would work, but I've got several more I need to do the same thing with, so it's very time consuming. Also, when I'm done, I'd like to have a grand total at the bottom. It's going to be much easier if you use the subtotal feature in Excel. I'll just go ahead and delete that blank row. Now that I have this sorted, as long as I'm clicked anywhere in the table, I'll be able to go to the subtotal feature. When you're under the Data tab, you'll see under the Outlining group, there is a subtotal option. I'm just going to click on that. And notice how it went back and selected my table because I was clicked in the table when I clicked the subtotal option. The first thing it asks me is, at each change in. When you drop the list down, you'll notice that these are all the column headings. Remember, if you come in here and it says column A, column B, column C, that means it doesn't recognize your headers. I want every time the division changes, so when it goes from Australia to Canada over here, then I want it to use the function sum, meaning add. But notice there are other functions I can use here as well. These are my headers again, and notice gross pay is checked. The only reason that gross pay is checked is because it's the last column here. You want to make sure that you have the correct column chosen that you want it to subtotal. I'm just going to click OK. And now if you look, we're going to go down and look at row 27, for example. Here's where Australia ended and Canada began, so notice it put a row in for us. And over here, it's totaled the gross pay for Australia. But notice it's also gone down and done the same thing for Canada on row 43 there. It's done the same thing for Germany, and also the same thing for Great Britain in row 102. Notice it also added a grand total on row 103 here for us, and that's the 48,278 that you see right there. Something else I want you to notice that happened. If you remember us talking about outlining over in the first section of this module, look, here's an outline. There are 3 levels of information here, the most important one being level 1, which is the grand total. If I click the 2, that'll show me levels 1 and 2, and you can see each of these, and then 3 will show me everything. So again, number 2 is going to show me each of my division totals, 3 shows everything, and 1 shows the grand total. This will print exactly like this. What if you wanted to know, for example, why Canada's number was so low? You could go to the plus sign to the left of row 43 And when you click on that, it will expand just Canada so that you can look at that. Now I can go back and click the minus sign next to row 43 and fold that information back up again. We call that collapse or expand. I'm going to go ahead and expand and show all three levels again. Let's say this time I'd like to see a count. I want it to count the number of employees that were paid that particular pay period. I'm going back to subtotal. I'm going to say each time the division changes, but this time I'm going to use the function count and click OK. Now if I scroll down, you can see that there were actually 22 employees paid for Australia. Canada had 15, and then you could go down and see the rest of these. You'll notice my count replaced the sum function that was in here previously. What if I wanted to see both the sum and the count? When I go back to the subtotal feature, I'm going to come down and uncheck this box that says replace current subtotals. Count is already in here, so this time I'll go ahead and choose the function sum and click OK. And because I've unchecked the box, now they'll both show up. And you can see that for each of the divisions. Now let's say I go back to subtotal. I wanted to show you that you also have an option to put a page break between the groups. I'm going to click OK and show you what I'm talking about. Let me go ahead and go back to subtotal, and I'm going to go ahead and replace current subtotals, and I'll just have it add. So we'll choose sum. I'm going back to the subtotal option, and you'll notice there's an option that says page break between groups. As long as you've checked this and clicked OK, when you go down and look, you'll notice there's a line underneath each of your totals. There's Australia, you'll see there's Canada, and all the way down there's Germany and so forth. If you don't want that page break, you can go back to subtotal and you can uncheck page break between groups and click OK. The last thing I want to show you is what if you'd like to actually turn off the outlining. All you have to do is when you go back to subtotal, choose the option to remove all, and when you click on that, you're going to see that you're back to the original way your file was set up. It does not leave your totals in there or anything, and now you can see all of your data. That's a quick way to work with subtotals in Excel. Now that we've done the outlining and subtotals, let's go ahead and move over to Module 15 and talk about working with some of the different views that Excel has built in. I'll see you shortly.